It is approximately 1,025 degrees outside Fahrenheit, which means only one thing. It's drum corps season for the fourth time in 2019. Good morning again, Daniel Valdez again. Thank you for tuning in. Whether you are listening through the YouTube channel, youtube.com/the Danpodcast, or, yes, it's on the podcast app, Apple Podcast app. Search the Dan Podcast. I am living proof that they just hand these things out to people. I have no validation whatsoever other than I'm not a creep. So whether you want to listen to it on YouTube, great. Younger people like to listen on YouTube. Older folks like to listen to it on the Apple Podcast app. So by all means, subscribe to both. Why not? It's free. It's not going to cost you anything except a couple of seconds of your time. Subscribe, like, heart, rate, do what you need to do. YouTube and the Apple Podcast app. I'm at Danpod Valdez on Instagram, and it's drum corps season, and I did a little poll. I always do a poll every week. What should the next episode be? And many people wanted a DCI preview or just thoughts on DCI stuff. I don't think I've ever really talked about it on the air or on the recording or whatever. God, why do I sound like an idiot? Anyways, and I usually don't give I talk about it a lot with my friends. I usually don't disclose who I like or what I look for publicly for some reason. And I think it's because in DCI, in drum corps, there's this notion that your opinions are not valid if you've never marched drum corps or have no involvement with drum corps whatsoever. And then, I took that to heart for a while when I was younger. And then I realized who's the gatekeeper? Nobody's preventing me from talking. So here you go. We'll try to keep it brief. I'll just give brief thoughts on it and what shows to look for this season. And then mainly we'll focus on the tour as it comes through the state of Texas. So here we go. And I posted this on Instagram. I didn't expect it to be a fan account, but I guess it is now, which is okay with me. Who's my favorite drum corps? Everybody's got a favorite drum corps. Everybody's got the drum corps. If you're a diehard fan or even like a super casual fan, everybody has that one corps that they defend no matter what. They could come out with the worst show that they've come out with in 20 years, and you're still going to defend it just because you like them or you grew up with them or you marched with them or whatever the reason is. I've got zero issue with that. My favorite drum corps was, and always will be the Blue Devils. And I hear some of you going, "Oh, great, he's one of those guys." He was probably the one standing up when they did Through a Glass Darkly. And you're like, yeah, I was. When people were, borderline booing these guys in the earlier this decade, I was the guy clapping to it, standing up, and listening to their shows in my car. Listen to them constantly. Here's why I like them so much. When I was in middle school, there was a thing on the internet. It was a file sharing service called Napster. A lot of the older people know about this, but the younger generation may not necessarily know. Napster was a file sharing software program. It was peer-to-peer. So you would type something in, like for instance, I typed in Drum Corps International. And depending on who was online and was willing to share files with you, it would come up with a list of just different things, and of course you could search down to specific corps that you wanted. I literally searched Drum Corps International, and I had just gotten into getting into learning about the activity. I was in 7th grade, 7th or 8th grade, something like that. And the very first search result was the Blue Devils 1996 show, Club Blue: A Gangster's Chronicle. They tied with Phantom Regiment for the DCI championship. Yes, folks, up until, when was it? Early 2000s, ties were allowed in DCI. And it happened in 1999, it happened in 96, happened in 1999, happened in 2000. And they got rid of that, thankfully. So I started listening to that show, and it was something I listened to all the time. I just kept listening to it over and over and over again, and that's how I got hooked. That's how I got hooked on them. I like their shows, even the ones that people don't like. I enjoy them because they're always performed very well. Anybody who's listened to this, anybody who's read the blog posts during the fall, you folks know that I am a major fan of the performance. Just watching those folks work and seeing them up close, there's no other core like it. And I like other cores too, don't get me wrong. It's just, you're asking for a favorite one, that's my favorite one. But I've never really been like, okay, I don't like this core no matter what they do. I don't really believe in that. I feel like everybody should get a fair shot. And then afterwards, and then if you don't like the show or whatever, then that's your opinion. What's my involvement in the drum corps activity? Very, very limited, if any. Donated some money to some corps. Listen to the shows all the time. They're always blasted into my car, especially during the summer. I love the activity. And every year you hear the same thing. Every year you hear that the younger generation is destroying the activity and that this thing is not going to exist in a couple of years. And anytime we hear that, it's always some people, it's always a small subset of people hitting the panic button or hitting the red button that's like, oh my God, everything's horrible. And the activity's dwindling and whatnot. I just don't buy that. The stands are still full, especially at the large contests. You would know if the activity was dying because, there'd be rumors of financial problems and all sorts of stuff. These drum corps are really run like businesses now. There's just so much money coming in. There's so many arms of the drum corps that go out there, especially with the Blue Devils, with Blue Devils Entertainment, where they people like Fortune 500 companies and like big corporations call them to like get players to do stuff for commercials. It's crazy. And I like that the drum corps have kind of branched off and they like have their own like little subsets. Like there are tons of NFL teams that have their own official drum lines that are associated with drum corps. It's crazy. I love seeing that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the shows this year and about what to watch for. Of course, I'm picking the Blue Devils to win this year. Ever since, I think for the last 13 or 14 years, the Blue Devils have not gone consecutive years without a championship. It's always been 1 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off. So last year they didn't win, so the numbers and the history tells me that they're just going to rip people's heads off. Ghost Light. It's such a neat show, and of course that color guard's so fantastic. And they're already performing it at an incredible high level. At an incredibly high level. Everybody's freaking out about the Blue Coats doing the Beatles show. Oh, that's so much fun. It's so much fun. If you get a chance to watch a makeshift video on YouTube, or if you get a chance to see it in person, strap yourself in. That is just fun with a capital F and 2 exclamation points before and after the word. Such a neat show. Boston is no longer an underdog. I like that they have that mentality, but I don't consider them an underdog. I would like to put them at the top shelf now with like Patron. I think we could put them up there now. They're so good this year, and you could tell that the writing and the performance is so aggressive. And Boston has made finals every year since 1999, I believe. I hope I'm right on that. So they've been around for a while. There's not one of these cores that they'll make it and they're up there for 2 years and then maybe they have an off year. No, they've made finals every year since the turn of the century. The turn of the millennium or whatever. I can't count. I don't care. And now people are finally starting to take notice. With staff changes and whatnot, these guys are a fan favorite now, and it's awesome. It's so neat to watch. Aggressive show. And by the way, everyone freaks out about closers and whatnot, and this show doesn't seem finished and whatnot. The goal is not now. the goal is August for World Championships. That's when you want to. That's when you want to peak. That's when you want to have. You want to make sure all the design elements are in there and whatnot. There used to be a big conversation when I was getting more, not involved with the activity, but I was paying more attention to it. What is the obligation of the drum corps to the audience? Is there an obligation to put 11 minutes, complete show, all in the field, everything thought out, everything in its place on the first show? Or is the obligation to the performers to give them the best possible vehicle on their final performance? I feel like audiences are more understanding of the course philosophy of making sure that final performance has all the design elements in there, and maybe not teaching the closer or the actual closer that they're going to use until later on in the season. And plus, the design process, anybody who's in the design field knows that the design process doesn't stop when you email the drill sheets out or you email the music out. It's constantly evolving. There have been plenty of cases when drum corps add stuff on finals night that maybe just came up, during the season. A lot of the stuff tries to get planned out beforehand, but some stuff comes up during the season. You're like, hey, that's really neat. We should start implementing that. It happens all the time. Design process is always evolving. It's a living thing. That's what makes this activity so awesome to watch. Is that, when you get to the middle of the season, when you get to DCI San Antonio, when all the world class corps come together and they're ready to throw down, everybody wants to say, okay, we've all done different shows, we've all split off the tours, we've gone different places. Now let's get together, let's get in the Alamo Dome, let's have some barbecue, and let's hash this out. Let's find out what we're made of. Then you start seeing those shows really come to life. You start seeing those little design elements. You start seeing those little things that are starting to get cleared up that were maybe a little bit muddy during the beginning of the season. Now not only clarity in terms of performance, but clarity in terms of design. What the designer's intent was is starting to really come to life, and that's when the shows start really, really, really getting exciting. Let's go over the Texas tour real quick. July 18th, essentially the tour splits. Belton, Texas, Denton, Texas. Denton, Texas show was at Denton ISD for a number of years. Now it's going to Apogee Stadium at the University of North Texas. That's going to be a lovely venue. If you can get out there, please do. Hopefully the Belton contest can go off as planned. Last year, severe heat all over the state of Texas, which is normal here, but it got especially bad last year around the Belton contest. So there were a lot of shows that had to, essentially they had to be standstill performances, and a lot of, I think the Belton show, they didn't even have uniforms on. They had to be out there in shorts and shirts and stuff like that, just for the safety of the performers, that was obviously the right call. Then, July 19th, we're going to Katy, Texas. We're going to that Legacy Stadium, Katy ISD Stadium. BOA Houston's going to be there this year. I believe they had that show there last year as well. And then July 20th, that Saturday, is the first time all the world-class corps get together in DCI, San Antonio, at the Alamo Dome, my backyard. Guess what, folks? Myself and the TexasBands.com blogging crew is going to be there. Are we going to be blogging the event? Hell no, we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be sitting there enjoying everything. Disclaimer, we tried to get into that event, kind of like what we do with Bands of America and the University Interscholastic League, who both organizations we have fantastic relationships with. We tried to do the same thing for DCI, and they literally would not return our emails. So, so we kind of gave up on that a long time ago. So we're going to be there, 50-yard line, right in the blast zone. We're going to be there. So if you want to come say hi to me, you want to come say hi to my buddies, by all means, come by, say hi. We'd love to meet people there. It's always a fantastic contest. I think I've missed 1 year of that ever since 2001. I think there was one year that I didn't go, and I don't know, something horrible happened, so that's why I didn't get to go. So you got that, and then Mesquite a couple of days later, DCI Mesquite. Hopefully that's a little bit. It's a little bit of a smoother experience. I know there were issues with getting into the stadium and seating assignments and whatnot. Hopefully that gets all worked out because, at the end of the day, it's about the performers. We want them to have the best possible performance, and it's hard to do that when, they're going in there and the stadium's empty because of issues going on with technology and whatnot. That's basically the Texas tour. This is where everything, like I said, everything starts coming together there. And it's an exciting time. If you're in the area of one of those contests, you owe it to yourself to go there. The very first drum corps contest I ever went to was in 2001. And a bunch of band people that I was in school with bought like a block of tickets. Now, granted, we were sitting on like the 25-yard line. I still had all the fun in the world. I had so much fun. I watched the Madison Scouts drumline warm up across the street from Bill Miller's. This was back then when you could just warm up anywhere. They'd let you do whatever. It was literally across the street from the Bill Miller's that's at the Alamo Dome. They went over there and warmed up. It was such a neat thing to do. And I've been going to that contest pretty much ever since. I try to go to at least one contest per year. Sometimes I go on a whim. I've gone twice to a drum corps contest almost at the last minute. In 2006, I went with a buddy of mine out to California just on a whim, like a week before the contest. Hey, I got next week off. You want to let's go to California. Let's go watch some corps out there. And we did. And it was awesome. Had In-N-Out for the first time. I got to enjoy some fantastic programs. It was the first time I ever saw the Academy. I don't remember if that was their inaugural season, but this was back when it was called Division II and not Open Class. They won a world championship that year, and I got to see that show early season on, and man, they were good. Super, super good. Visited the souvenir booth, bought a shirt, enjoyed my time there. A couple of years ago, I went to the Broken Arrow contest. I was living in Plano at the time, and I literally bought tickets 24 hours before the contest. Now, granted, the seats were on the 10-yard line because it was a tour champion show, I believe. So all the big names were there. So I stayed for two corps, and I realized something. I've never really been in the lot. Like I said, in 2001, I went to Madison Scouts and I watched their drumline warm up, but I never really spent an extended period of time just in the lot. So that's what I did. I watched Hornlines warm up. I watched the Cavaliers drumline warm up, and it's such an awesome experience. So even if you're only there to see one or two corps and you don't really care about anybody else, which, I mean, that's your prerogative, if you can, go watch warm-ups. Go to the lot. Go watch the drumlines warm up. It's so awesome, and it's free. You get to go. You can take food there. You can take, make sure you got plenty of water because you're going to be outside. It is such an awesome experience. It really, really, really opened my eyes when I was at Broken Arrow, watching the drumlines warm up and just, seeing how people operated in the lot. It was very, very eye-opening. Another thing you can do, if you're not able to make these events, but they're around your area, closer to the event, corps will start releasing, or they may have released now, but they'll start releasing where their housing, what their housing situation is going to be. So they usually, for instance, in the San Antonio area, there are plenty of high schools that house drum corps there a day or two in advance for the DCI San Antonio contest. So you can go and watch your favorite corps rehearse. And you may have to drive a little bit, but you can go watch them rehearse. And it's awesome. It's so cool. Of course, you want to be courteous and whatnot, but it's a new level of experience. Watching a drum corps rehearse is such a neat experience. And you can learn a lot from it too, because they're not out there like goofing off or anything. They're very, very focused. And trust me, you have to be when you're dealing with this heat. This is not something you want to take for granted. So go to the lot, go to, if there's a rehearsal that's around your area, Please go out there, have fun, make sure to buy merchandise. If you have got a favorite corps, the best way you can help them is buy merchandise. That's one of those things that, a lot of people don't talk about. Buy stuff from them because it goes directly to the corps, and you want them to be prosperous. You want them to be you want them to be around for a long time. I want this activity to keep going and going and going until I leave this earth. That would be really neat. It's going to be an exciting season. I think the Blue Devils are going to win. I think Boston might have a shot at medaling, maybe. But it's going to be, that medal's going to be, it's not going to get decided today. It's not going to get decided in a week, 2 weeks. Not going to get decided in a month. It's going to take all the way to DCI finals to figure this thing out. And the 12th spot, too. Looking at Crossman, looking at Spirit, looking at Mandarins. We've had first-time finalists or finalists that have been that have made finals for the first time in a very long time, like Troopers back in the late 2000s. They got in there. They haven't been back since. Academy made it for the first time in World Class Finals a couple of years ago. They haven't been back since. Mandarins made it for the first time last year with their awesome show. We're going to see if they can repeat that. That 12th spot is up for grabs. Looking at Crossman, looking at Spirit, looking at the Mandarins. You're looking at Phantom Regiment. I mean, that thing's going to come down to the wire too, and it usually does. I like that stuff. I like not knowing what's going to happen before DCI finals. I love that because it makes it more exciting, and the performers know that too. They're taught to go out there and they're taught to, whatever the case is, just perform your show. But in the back of their minds, there's a little thing that's like, we got to give a little bit extra because everybody's bringing it. Everybody brings their thing. Always love a good drum corps show. Always love a good performance. I really like to pay attention to the design elements because these shows are so intricately designed that there's a lot of stuff I miss on the first watch. It usually takes me a couple of viewings to really understand what the show's about and really, appreciate the design elements and the performance elements that are bringing out the design elements on the field. Love this activity. I want it to continue to prosper. I want to see these folks perform for many, many, many years. I want the problems that DCI has go away, and we all know those problems. I want those things to be addressed. I want people to take ownership of them. I want people to be held accountable. And I want the performers to be safe. And that's really all I got to say about that. I'm done with this DCI little preview thing. So I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get some lunch, I guess. I'm done here. Remember, at DanPodValdez on Instagram. Download me at the YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheDanPodcast. On Apple Podcasts app, search The Dan Podcast. I'm done here. I'll see you this season at a DCI event near you. Okay, whatever. All right, I'm done here. Take care. Adios. Bye-bye.